Hello, everybody. Welcome to this December 9th at 6:30 p.m. final BOD meeting of the year. We'll probably blast through this decently quickly, and we'll see what we can get to. So first is the meeting called to order. We're here. Good job. I believe we have had an attendance call. Can you read off who's currently in attendance for us, Christine, please?
Yes, Christine Stender, Athena Valesco, Alejandro Delgado, Ethan Kopich, Leon Starks, Carl Craig.
Perfect. And the Monarch has mentioned that they are providing credits for attendance for this meeting. So everything in the chat. Thank you very much. Item number 4, reading of the last meetings of the last minute. Yeah, and I shall actually share my screen. That will be helpful. So you're not just staring at my face. Perfect. So last meeting, meeting was called to order 6:36. We had various people within attendance and credit was provided. We read the minutes of the previous meeting. If you care about those, go back and watch the last meeting. It's up on YouTube now. Old business, California tax exempt status. There was no update. There has been an update. The 501c3 business donation pamphlet. There was intention to make a video, a website, and a pamphlet. Zeno is working on a video, and they are going to check back in December. The D&O and general insurance update. The Alding passed. The Kingdom Prime Minister did, in fact, pay the D&O insurance. And next, we're working on the general liability insurance. We'll talk about that. Cleanup of the old castle contract. Ethan was to write an email, and Royce was to send that email. Unfortunately, Royce did not get to it before their time in office was completed. So Alex will do that. We'll talk about that. Correction to the BOD bylaws. We voted on a whole section, pile of changes to Section 5 in the BOD bylaws. They went over a lot of our duties and responsibilities, and then pushed to extend the follow-on conversation in Section 6 about officers to the December meeting. Sorry. The seller's permit for the kingdom and how to get it. Royce was able to find the relevant Nix code for us, which was extremely helpful. And then Leon was to follow up in December about using said code and about how we can get a free food tax-free with permit, and some other potential options we could get. We talked about selling space on the trailer, people being able to bid for various symbology or banner space on the trailer, and then Walrus gets to make that choice. Alex gets to make that choice going forward. Fidelity Charity. I was working with Fidelity to get it so that way we can actually accept them as a charitable donation, be able to send money through Fidelity because many businesses support Fidelity charitable giving. We will talk about that again later today. New business, Fog After Action report. So we made a little bit of money, approximately 130 attendees. The new site loved us. More to follow up next month, which is now this month. And then we welcomed the new Monarch, and we are keeping Royce as the state contact through at least the end of the year. If not a little bit further, we'll figure out what's going on there. Walk-on items. Frank and Demento mentioned about, it would be a good idea using our new 501c3 status to be able to go find food suppliers to talk about donating potentially some or all of feasts, which would be helpful. We'd have to figure out the process for that. And then we scheduled the next meeting for today. And then probably forgot that we'd scheduled the next meeting for today. That closes the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Are there any other questions on that? No. Okay. Okay, well, let's talk about the tax exempt status. On to item number 5, old business. Tax exempt status. I still hadn't heard anything from the state of California. However, I went and looked on their webpage, and there is a letter there saying, good job, we are listed on the state of California. So I believe we have California tax exempt status on this now, and this has been completed. I was hoping that they would send us a letter saying as much, but you can go onto the Secretary of State's webpage and download a letter saying that we are listed as tax exempt in the state of California. So that will do. So yay, we now have that. We probably have had it for a while. I just didn't know where to look. 501c3 business donation pamphlet. I know Milan did work on this. He sent me a draft copy. Unfortunately, I did not get back to providing comments on that. And Zeno was working on a video. Unfortunately, Brian Milan is not here at this time to provide further update. So we will continue beating them with all the branches until that is completed. General insurance update. we actually have a general insurance quote. I got a quote this morning, which is, all fine and good and dandy. We just have to pay it. So I will be sending that along, but we can give me one quick second to pull it up and make sure that it's not doesn't give everything away. Can't remember what information they put of mine on here. That's my phone number and email address. Okay, we'll live. Perfect. Okay, so general liability insurance quoted, I had to kind of roughly estimate. I used some JS estimations here about number of participants. On average, Westmarch averages a little under 350 people over the course of the year. We do get surges throughout the year of almost like up to the upper 400s range, but then we'll go through other periods where we're like in the 280s or whatever, basically spring and winter. So I roughly kind of estimated that we have about 300 adults, and I'm assuming about 100 kids, might be 50, might be a little bit, probably a little bit less. So the accident premium rate calculator brings that in at 457. And I've been working with the lovely people over at Francis L. Dean to help me fill this out. So that's like the baseline. This is just the accident coverage premium. Then for the general liability, and I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. The general liability, oh, first I go over some other things. General liability, they asked us a couple of questions about past liability. It's never been canceled. We do require a waiver. Our old insurance is not canceling because we haven't had insurance really in the past. We've never paid a claim. We do not operate on a 24-hour basis like any sports fields. We don't run any facilities. We don't pay anybody, and we don't take place at any pools. One other thing that they did ask is, do we do anything at private properties? And I said no. We don't do any like sports live activities. We do some A&S stuff, but that's not going to be covered under our general liability. This does mean that for this insurance to work, we can't be like hosting events at people's houses, or they would have to get separate insurance, or we would have to amend this insurance. There is a process for doing that. There's a form we have to send it in. We have to pay a delta, whatever balance that is, whatever that number comes up to. So there are ways to handle it, but under our general, we are not covering activities at people's places of residence.
Okay,
These
so
all have to be
private fighter practices at someone's house, you can't try to file a claim.
correct. We would not be covered under that. The person, if if an accident happened there, uh, really, hopefully they're not suing us. is the answer, because our insurance wouldn't cover that particular item. But the fact is that we would have insurance for the rest of the time, which we don't have insurance for at all right now. We've so far only had about at major kingdom events. This should cover us for the rest of our events that we have throughout the year, mid-range coronations, and I do even believe that this covers us also on it all goes through here about general liability, injury, death, participation, or injury of participants, death of participants. It even covers a host liability for liquor, negligence, use claims, ownerships. We did not get the abuse or molestation additional insurance, and we did not get the spectator. There's an additional medical one here for spectators if they get injured, people who haven't been waivered. The reason is this medical payment spectator is an additional 5%, which on an insurance like this is several $100s, and the abuse and molestation is about an extra $1,000 per year. And
I have a question about the private property business.
yes.
Do we need to make some sort of an official ruling that anything on private property without additional insurance is not an official AmpGuard event?
We may want to do that. I would first want to get a little bit more information, because it's interesting because it's not in the like packet they sent me, but when I was emailing back and forth about like what exactly when they were asking that question of like what does it mean, they seem to be hinting at something. So I think first we should follow up, or I guess I should follow up a little bit more and better understand what that is, and what that might do. Because it's interesting. It's not in this questionnaire, but it was in the questionnaire he emailed me. So that's where I'm trying to figure it out, what that delta is and what exactly that means.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then our limit is $1 million per occurrence with a $1 million per year, which hopefully means we don't get more than one occurrence. Considering we haven't been sued yet in the history of Westmarch, hopefully we never have to use this. So as you can see, this number, 400 participants at $4.50 per participant, calculated premium, it comes out to $1,800. This is in addition to the price earlier. So as I mentioned, we opted out of the medical payment and we opted out of the abuse and molestation. So all of the items added together, 2,200, which is just a little bit more. The prices have increased a little bit. They're only charging a $10 brokerage fee for all of the questions that he's been answering for me. So um, it has gone up a little bit, but I think it's still a good idea to follow up with this.
Silly follow-up question. Confirming this does cover the kingdom events like Dark Shore and Fog, right?
Yes. This should cover everything run by the corporation.
Nice. What were we paying for individual event insurance? I forget the typical range off the top of my head.
Leon, how much did we pay for the last one? I know what the ones before that were.
So this last one was special because it was provided by
right.
the event center.
Oh,
For this
yeah.
last one we paid, it was like
I can-
$135.
I can look up the one that I did.
I believe it's typically been like $400 or $500 for event insurance.
Yeah, yeah. We've been spending about $900 a year in insurance,
Nice.
and they've been going up, especially the most recent, like the Feast of Kami, the Feast of Gods. Not 2 months ago, but the year before that. The site asked for like a bunch of additional add-ons, including like an additional alcohol policy above and beyond our standard alcohol policy, and all of these other things, and that insurance was quite expensive. It ended up being like $500-$600. Yeah, there are some additional things on here we may want to figure out, going to what you were talking about, some additional items we should be aware of, primarily relating to inflatables, fireworks, firearms, like any handling or storage of any firearms, ammunition, explosives, horses. There's a whole bunch of items in here. We don't do these activities, as far as I could tell, but it is worth noting.
I think the only real risk is like the inflatable stuff. If someone gets really, motivated.
Yeah. The only other one I kind of seen like this are the inflatable like bunker type things used for like paintball courses. I don't believe those are excluded under here. Like we're not using them as jumping pillows or like bubble soccer Zorb, which is like the people in the giant inflatable soccer ball things like running around and bouncing off each other. Not covered by our insurance. Mechanical pulls, not covered by our insurance.
Oh, the haunted houses though, if we do another spooky one, it's like, hey guys, sorry, you can't do a technical haunted house.
Or we just have to get, additional insurance for those, whatever they are.
Fair enough. Anyway.
Yeah. We're also not allowed to sell hemp, marijuana, or other paraphernalias. Yep.
It says it's any operations involving. So I mean, we're not putting an operation where marijuana is like a featured part of it, but
Correct.
we are aware that it at times happens during the events. So if there is an issue related to that, then it's personal liability.
What I would say, because the concern is something occurs and then somebody goes, oh, I'm going after the company for not protecting me. So what we should do at our events is be like, we do not support this. Go do it off site or, somewhere else, or it's not covered, or whatever.
Yeah, somebody,
and it specifically says sale of tincture, hemp, marijuana, or paraphernalia, which we do not do.
Sale of, okay, because
I believe
the way the commas are, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. And I do believe so. It's like we as an event should not be hosting a hookah bar or other types of things like that. We shouldn't be letting people like if we have sellers, we probably shouldn't be letting them sell paraphernalia. Or if they are, ask them to get additional insurance. It also doesn't cover drone use. So again, if we want somebody to use drones, make sure they have the appropriate permits. Those are the types of things where it's like, if somebody else is going to use it, we should ask them to get the relevant additional insurance on their end. And if an event wants to do it, they should go get additional add-on insurance for that item. If they want to hire, a drone dude to do whatever.
Ilanthus mentioned, potentially notifying the public of when this happens, and it might be a good idea to make a statement of, "Hey, by the way, this is the stuff not covered," or, "These are the things that would require additional permits," because I just to cover our own ass is what I feel like, where people aren't going to assume that now whatever you do, Westmarch will take care of if the location gets mad about something that happens.
Yeah, especially for the Kingdom events, I think we should add part of this language into the Kingdom bid process or something like that. Just a little certification of like, I am certifying I have read these exclusive activities and will not be doing them. That's definitely a good thing to add. And then probably send something to like the land monarchies. Because they're going to be the ones primarily hosting this on like the week to week. It does fall into an interesting like, we don't have land monarchy sign anything to say that they're like following through. The best we have are the like land contracts. This is not in there, obviously. But the point is that it's still way better than what we currently have, which is nothing.
Absolutely.
So I'll be sending this information over to you, Leon, probably after this meeting, so we can get the section filled in, and I can forward it back to the relevant parties, and we can get the stuff signed. It is in my name just because they needed a name for the document, and so they needed a point of contact party, a policy holder party. So I figured my name was as good as any. We could ask them to update that to a different person's name if anybody particularly cares.
Could we attach all the contracts to the notes just so I don't have to write every single blipping thing down? Would that be all right?
Can we attach all the contract? You mean attach this document?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. And my plan is at some point I'll probably redact. Well, I don't even think the only thing on here is my email and phone number, so that can probably get uploaded just fine. I just wanted to make sure we weren't like doxing anybody, and we can upload it to the Westmarch wiki page.
And should you no longer hold an office for a while, there wouldn't be any issue given that it's your name, will there?
I don't think so. Because I'm just like the person signing as the policy holder, and because this whole thing started off was I was just gonna fill this out online and like have them approve it, and then I emailed them of like, hey, I was concerned about the policyholder having to be like every single autocrat and every single monarchy member. And they were like, no, we just need a policyholder to be like the person we contact if we need to contact them, for these types of things. And I was like, oh, okay, I can be that person. The other option is we ask them to be like, kick it to next year, and have the new board sign it. But we can also amend this. You can go to their website and let me pause my screen real fast. You can go to their website and send in an amendment form. And sometimes there's a nominal fee. So you just go to the Francis L. Dean Associates, and there's an insurance, and it goes into a whole FAQ about like, how do I make changes to my policy, such as names or documents or whatever. And it's like you fill out this policy change request form and you email them.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so I think we would only need to do that again if you're no longer going to hold an office that would be relevant to these kinds of contracts. But as long as we know how to do it, that's fabulous. Fine.
Yep. No. Okay. That is that section. So that's the general insurance update. Hopefully we will have that finished up pretty soon, which will be nice. And that would cover the last of our insurance. Cleanup of the Old Castle storage contract. I sent the relevant information to Walrus. Walrus, I believe you forwarded that to Azus.
Yep, forwarded to Azus.
Perfect. And I did talk to Azus, I believe, previously, and he mentioned that he had received it and was supposed to respond back, but he hadn't yet. So that is completed as well. Okay, the other big one, the correction of the POD bylaws. So I went through and made all of the relevant, these are the suggestions. You can see a bunch of changes we asked for. I have made the relevant updates to section 5, so they are now all incorporated in here, nice and cleanly. I have some proposals for section 6 about the article officers. Do we want to go through them now, or we can kick it to the new board next year? What are people's feelings tonight?
Just go over it.
Okay. I heard one for it. Let's go over it. So this is Article
Seconded.
6. Perfect. This is Article 6. It talks about the officers and their duties. I tried my hardest really to just align this between what's in the corpora, aka the way we've been operating for the last while, and what is in here. So that way they're hopefully aligned, and people can read the corpora and get a pretty close understanding of exactly what's happening here. So the first part is the board shall elect officers of the corporation/organization, which shall include either, and then it says a board chair or president and all these things. So I've simplified this to just say shall include a president, a secretary, a treasurer, a vice president, and a liaison. Which aligns with the corpora, and any other officers with any titles as stated by these bylaws. There are no another. That's just there. The same person then it says the same person may hold any number of offices, except the secretary cannot also be the treasurer. I rewrote this to say no person may hold more than one position. Again, that's what our corpora has been saying. In addition to the duties in accordance with this article, officers shall conduct all other duties typically pertaining to their offices and other such duties as required by law, the articles of corporation, or these bylaws. Subject to the control of the board of directors, they shall perform any other such additional duties which the board may assign to them at their discretion. Basically say, this comes down to the board shall do what they have to do legally by all of their internal documents, and they can perform other duties as they basically assign themselves. The officers will be selected by the board at its annual meeting. I modified selected to approved because we talk about in the previous section about how the selection process will work by basically going through the corpora alding or election process. So we are just approving them is the idea. If there's some reason we vote no on somebody, it would have to, that's a whole other can of worms. But so we're really just approving at their annual meeting, which I defined as in January. Our annual meeting in January is when we shall approve the new board, and shall serve the needs of the board subject to all rights if any of the officers who may be under a contract of any officer who may be under a contract of employment. Therefore, without any bias or predisposition to the rights of any officers that may be under any contract of employment, an officer may be removed with or without cause. All officers have the right to resign. So this is really restating what's already mentioned in Article 5 that we went over last time, that people can be pulled out of the board. It requires a unanimous vote of all other board members. So it would require 6 votes for that to happen. So as a result, I'm not expecting that to basically ever occur in short of something serious happening. And then it talks about how they can resign, which is the same section that's mentioned earlier. They can do it by providing written notice to the CEO, the president, and or secretary of the corporation. We don't have any bias or predispositions to any all rights, and if any of the corporation are no contractable officers. And then all resignations become effective upon the date of written notice, unless it's timestamped to take effect on some other date. That's what this last part says. And this is just a repeat of what is mentioned earlier, where it goes in more specifically about resignations and removals above. This kind of talks more exactly about it. So this is just repeating that information here. Okay. And then all vacancies. Oh.
Sorry. I worry about the at its annual meeting, and I know you say in January. Does it matter that it makes it sound like they meet once a year?
So this kind of same wording is used by ACOM actually about like their annual meeting. I think
Okay.
it does mention about meetings elsewhere that we do have like periodic meetings.
I just wonder if it's worth it to say at the first meeting of the year, of the new calendar year, anything like that. If we don't think that it's not that necessary, okay. It seemed confusing to me. My bad.
Yeah, and part of it is just like every section is kind of written to be independent of all the other sections, but then they like reference other sections. It's a legal document. It's kind of annoying in that way. There is a section about like there's a minimum number of meetings. I forget how many we have in here. I'll have to go find it. But I mean, we have to meet at least once a year, right, to elect new things. And the corpora kind of says like this will meet think monthly, but we have the ability to like cancel all of them. So
We
kind of
do?
interesting. Yeah, we can actually cancel if we are unable to meet quorum or if there isn't a sufficient reason, and like the
Ah.
president and the secretary, like two people could just sit down and yeah, it's a very interesting thing. We do have the ability to cancel meetings if for some reason we can't do them. Yeah, and then it talks about any vacancies that caused because of death, resignation, disqualification shall be filled in accordance herein by described bylaws, such as appointing regular appointments offices, which we talked about. It's basically just it follows the core election process because that's how we defined it up above. And then they're just approved by the board to make sure that, we can elect like a 14-year-old to the board and be like, hey, they're not of legal age, we can't accept them on the board, right? The compensation, if any, shall be fixed or determined by the resolution of the board. We get $0. This was the trickiest part. So this first part talks about the chair of the board, or the chief executive officer. We have defined the chief executive officer different in Westmarch. We have defined it as the monarch. By default, the monarch is this whole other position. The CEO is a different position. They're not typically a board member. And then we give them ex officio status, as we talked about last time. So I'm proposing that we just move this entire paragraph about the responsibility of the chair of the board under the president, because it's what we're already doing. So it shall be the responsibility of the chair or president, one president, to preside over the meetings, as the president is currently doing, and of the board of directors and any executive committees. We don't currently have any executive committees, but they can be created. The president is authorized to execute in the name of the corporation any and all contracts or other documents which may be authorized either generally or specifically by the board to be executed by the corporation, except when required by law that the president's signature, or in this case, the CEO's signature, must be provided. So I'm just basically proposing like move this whole section on the president. It's already the powers we give the president in the Corpora. Then we have the vice president in the absence of the president. Most of these are just changing chair of board to president. So in the absence of the president, or in the event of his or her inability or refusal to act, aka they can't show up, they're very sick, or they just don't want to be on the board, it shall then be the responsibility of the vice president to perform all duties of the president, and in doing so shall have all the authorities and powers and shall be subject to all the restrictions of the president. So basically, they get to be the backup president. That's done. The president section is rather lengthy. It's just a bit pedantic. It shall be the responsibility of the president in general to supervise and conduct all activities and operations of the corporation, subject to control, advice, and consent of the board. So their job is to execute their duties. The president shall keep the board of directors completely informed and shall freely consult with them in relation to any and all activities of the corporate organization, shall see that all orders and other resolutions of the board are carried out to the effect intended. So basically make sure that everybody else is doing their jobs. The board of directors may place the president under a contract of employment where appropriate. We have that option. We've never done it, but we could. The president shall be empowered to act, speak for, or otherwise represent the corporation or organization between meetings of the board. Again, we do allow the board to do this. We actually give this power, similar power to basically all board members in the Corpora. The president shall be responsible for hiring and firing of all personnel and shall be kept responsible for keeping the board informed at all times of staff performance, for implementing any personnel policies which may be adopted and implemented by the board. We don't hire any staff, but if we should ever need to, the president is the one who could do that. Like, shall manage them. This would be like if we hired some lawyers or something like that, or we hired some contractors to do some artwork for us or something like that. The president would be the responsible party to make sure that they're doing their work. The president at all times is authorized to contract, receive, deposit, disperse, and account for all funds of the organization to execute in the name of the corporation all contracts and other documents, either generally or specifically by the board to be executed by the corporation, and negotiate any material businesses or transactions. So we again in the Corpora talk about that the board has the ability to execute on contracts and has the ability to like operate on behalf of the corporation. This is just saying, very explicitly that the president has those powers. And that we have the president has the ability to account for all funds of the corporation. We could cut this part because it's kind of already covered by the treasurer and CFO section, but one way or the other, we could remove it, we could not remove it. I don't see the harm in leaving it. So basically, really just the president's powers are just being modified by just saying they also run the meeting if we add the chair of board stuff. There's basically no changes I'm proposing to the secretary. This is very, like, the secretary is a position that is very much required by law. It is actually one of the 3 positions we are required to have. We're required to have a CEO, a CFO, and a secretary. We actually don't need the other positions. at all. So the secretary is very much required by law. Basically, all of this just comes from the requirements of the state of California. I can read over this if people care. Otherwise, I'm willing to just move along.
Let's keep it moving.
Cool. So then the final one listed, and then we'll get to the other one that's missing. The treasurer, who by default is the chief financial officer. Again, we do it differently. We give the chief financial officer to the prime minister. So I'm saying strike chief financial officer. The treasurer shall be responsible for the treasurer. It shall be the responsibility of the treasurer to work with the CFO, chief financial officer, is what I'm proposing, to keep and maintain or cause to be kept and maintained adequate and accurate accounts of all properties and business transactions of the corporation, and including accounts of its assets, liabilities, receipts, disbursements, gains, losses, capitals, retained earnings, and other matters customary included in financial statements. This is to be expected. Treasurer shall be responsible for ensuring the deposit of or cause to be deposited all monies and other valuables as may be designated by the board of directors. Furthermore, the treasurer shall I say work with the CFO to disperse or cause the disbursement of funds for the corporation as ordered by the board of directors, and shall render the, in this case, CEO, CFO, president, and directors, whenever they request it, an account of all activities. So basically they're saying that they have to keep a full accounting, and the CEO, the CFO, the president, and the other board members can all request basically at any time that the treasurer provides them the receipts, like the ledger. This is something we already do with the treasurer. This is just the more formal legalese behind that. So that's really the big thing here. I did look into this section about the treasurer shall give the corporation organization a bond if required by the board of directors. I didn't fully understand what a bond was last time. I looked into this. What this is this is a surety bond. This is something that you can go typically to like a bank and you can pay an amount. And it's basically like an insurance. You pay an insurance of about 1 to 3% of the amount of the bond. So if you're doing $1 million bond, you're paying like $10,000. It's a pretty big amount. And if the treasurer messes up the accounting such that the company takes losses, the bank or the whoever owns the bond pays up the difference, like will help cover the losses and the payments. Really, I add a link here to the springly.org webpage, which does a lovely thing about this for nonprofits. They go, if your nonprofit doesn't make enough money, this isn't really required as long as you kind of trust the treasurer. The worst thing that happens to the treasurer, for us would be we'd be out a few $1,000s. If they really messed up, most likely it's a few $100 and we just go, stuff happens, we move along. We don't make enough money for this to really be a thing. Now, this is a thing that if so requested by the board, so I say we don't remove this because we are not requiring them to do it. But if at some point we really take off and we start making a lot of money, this is still in there to say that the treasurer could be required to provide some sort of bond. Basically this extra form of insurance. So I say we don't touch any of this section about bonds or anything like there. It's purely an optional thing, and as a result, we don't need to worry about it at this point. And it's just an additional thing we can look into. Any questions on the treasurer? Okay. So one final sticky note. Hopefully this is big enough. Oh, of course, this sticky note doesn't change. So we don't have a liaison in this list of officers. So I copied in the information from the Corpora and added a liaison. These are just the words out of the Corpora, slightly massaged, but they're 90% the same. So the liaison, the board of directors shall elect from their number a liaison officer who shall be responsible for contact with all outside agencies. The liaison shall maintain a mailing and phone list of all agencies the kingdom deals with, and the liaison shall maintain a copy of all contracts between the board of directors and the outside agency or subsidiary chapter. That's really all that is actually all that's listed in the Corpora. So I'm just proposing we add that as a paragraph down here right under treasurer, so that way they're officially a board position. And that was all I had for the board of directors, Article 6 officers. There's nothing else really in Article 7. This is all about committees, standard of care. It talks about loans. I don't think any of this needs to be handled in this meeting. And we could, if we want to, kick this to next year's board to continue whatever additional cleanup they feel like is needed in here. And I already, as we voted on last time, just fly down here. There's a section in here about, the CFO annual statement. So I added the amendment that we talked about, which is if the corporation nets a gross revenue of $1 million or more, then we will get a CPA. Before that, we won't bother. So that was the only other change that we approved last time. So, okay, so flying back up to section 6 here about officers. I think if we do this will really help out the board for next year, and then we can kind of leave them the rest of the document, which is like Article 7, which talks about how to, I think, form committees and everything else like that, and then Article 8 and then through 12 is about execution of duties and things like that. Most of those are already pretty fine. Do we wish to vote on this? Oh no, wait, we need a 3/4. Do we have enough people here? We're missing 2? Yeah, we have 5 of 7. So that would be enough for us to vote, because we do need a 3/4 to be able to vote through.
I say we go for it.
Oh no, wait, 5 of 7? That's only 71%. I missed.
Looks like we have 6.
Carl, me,
One.
Leon, Atlantis, Athena. Oh, Walrus. Yeah, okay, we do have 6. So we're just missing Dash?
I believe so.
Oh, even better. Okay, then we do have it. It'll have to be an unanimous vote because we need 5.5 people. So we can do. Wow, I am not mathing right now. Okay, so first, does anybody have any discussion, disagreements, anything else that they wish to discuss in this section about officers, or as we kind of discussed here, as shown on the screen, about codifying the ex officio members, about the president and vice president liaison being added, moving the responsibilities of the chair of the board off of the CEO, who's our monarch, down to the president, basically saying the president runs the meeting rather than the monarch. Redefining some of these terms and adding the liaison. Does anybody have any questions?
The president, at times, to contract, receive, disperse, and account for all funds. So I think I only worry about, does the BOD president have the authority to pay for something?
That is an interesting question. You're right. It does say disperse. I thought it was just receive. So we probably could strike these two, deposit and disperse. So they are authorized to contract, which is, sign a document with a contract, to receive money, which they would have to then deposit, which they can't. So they'd have to pass that along. So I guess we could probably strike receive if we wanted to, depending on how we want to receive it.
So they can contract for, yes, the kingdom agrees to do this amount of money, but they can't handle the actual transaction. And the president can account for the money from kingdom? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that, okay, so if we strike receive, deposit, and disperse, then they're allowed to contract and they're allowed to account. That makes sense to me. That does align a bit more with our corpora. That makes sense. Okay, I'm fine with that. Does anybody else have anything else?
Can I also get this one attached or in some way?
Yeah, I'll go through and make the edits. And then I'll send out of like, here's our official version as the end of the year, all together. And then I'll post it also to our wiki page, so that way it's actually available to everybody as like a public document. Or did you want the one with all my markups on it?
Just to show what we actually voted on.
Okay, I can do that.
Thanks.
Perfect. Are there any other items?
Can't think of anything right now.
Okay. In that case,
I was going to say, I make a motion to approve all the changes as read.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Seconded.
Wow, we got double seconds. So in that case, Secretary, can you please do an official vote for us?
All righty. 1 second. Let me copy and paste here. All right. Myself, I vote yes. Athena.
Yes.
Alejandro.
Aye.
Ethan,
Yes.
Leon, are you there?
Yes.
Yes, there we go. And Carl,
Yes.
it is unanimous.
Okay, victory. We have done it, officers. That was one of the last big hurdles of the year for us. So, okay. We have correction of the BOD bylaws. I will go through and make those official amendments or updates as we just discussed, and I'll make sure that they get sent over to our secretary for publication. Item F. Seller's permit for the kingdom and how to get it. There was a Nix code update. Unfortunately, Royce isn't here. Athena, do you have anything that you know about?
No, unfortunately, they definitely have taken over that task, and I trust them with it.
Perfect. In that case,
I have
Mark is done
information.
for now. Or Mark is not further discussing it today, unless people have something they want to ask.
Information as to the seller's permit.
Sorry, what was that? You're really quiet.
I have information as to the seller's permit.
Oh yeah, the permission for the seller's permit? Nice.
So basically we have to set it up, and Royce is going to work with Alejandro on that at some point in the near future.
Okay. So we have to set it up. Royce is working with Alex, our current monarch, to get that through. CEO, I should say, but yeah. Okay, sounds good. In that case, I leave it to you, King Walrus. Are there any other items for item F? Seller's permits for the kingdom. Okay. Item G, selling space on the trailer. We need to write a contract for this. I say we give this to the next board and make it their problem. Alex Walrus, I'm not sure how much motivation. I know Royce was really big on wanting to get this done quickly. I'm not sure what your thought timeline plan here is.
I'm not familiar with contract writing. I might bug him and talk to him about his plans and what his thoughts were. If he had a game plan that I can take over and get done, then I will do it as quickly as I can. If not, then I will figure out how to do that properly and take care of it as it comes.
Yeah. Are you still? I think my question was more about like the strong push to sell space on the trailer.
Oh, I think that's an excellent idea.
Okay. And we, the board, can help you write stuff like that as well.
Yeah, I hope to be on the board next year. We shall see. And I had some ideas for, a sales proposal of, stickers to potentially go on, and then if it will be painted, ways that can be done that would fundraise. So we'll get there. But if you need assistance writing those things up, I'm volunteering if I get voted in advance.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Okay. Item H, Fidelity Charity. This got set up. So Fidelity, we man, they ran us around in circles. They apparently couldn't read how emails worked. But from my understanding, Leon, they reached out to you. I sent through a little test payment of like $25. Hopefully it made it through.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I went through and I set up I went through the link, set up everything as directed via the link.
Perfect. So now if your business contracts with Fidelity, because a lot of businesses do, for like a charitable donation or charitable giving system, we now have that all set up so everybody can just go and they can pull money directly like from your paycheck and things like that. You could do it as periodics or a one time or whatever else. Some employers will even do like a level of matching, 20% or 50% or 100%. Sometimes they'll do it during particular parts of the window or to the year. A lot of times around Thanksgiving or the holidays, because we are a nonprofit and we do help people. So this is an additional way to donate money to Westmarch. All very, very helpful for us.
I would love. Oh, sorry, Atlantis. I would love if we could do any kind of announcement on that. What were you going to say?
I did announce this at FOG. Okay. Yes, Atlantis.
I was going to say something similar. It would be great if we could have the information on how people can set it up on our webpage so that they just go look at it and follow the instructions.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a little bit employer specific, is what I found. Oh, dang it. Okay.
At least a general idea of, hey, ask your employer if they
Yeah.
work with Fidelity. If so, do they offer any kind of matching? Because you can potentially set up to have part of your paychecks go directly, as charitable donations to Westmarch. Or, if your company is looking to give towards any causes, they can now use Fidelity in order to donate towards this nonprofit that one of their employees works with or stuff like that. Just kind of, even if it's just an outline conceptually without specific employer instructions, because that won't be possible, I think folks would be very interested. And some companies do talk about, the season of giving and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it should be, you have to go through the Fidelity Giving Marketplace is what it is. And then when you're
Mm.
on that web page, you search by keyword, and you should be able to just type in Westmarch. You shouldn't need our full EIN. You can do that if you want, but you should just be able to type in Westmarch. There's like two of them. We're the one that's not a church. And then you select us, and then there's a little drop down for like how much, or you can write in a custom amount, and then it just gets through. So yeah, I unfortunately only have the information from my company, and they publish it pretty good, and it was still a bit of a few button clicks to go find it through Fidelity. So, but yeah, we should make an announcement. I agree. I will hand that to one of my lovely board members.
I would not mind writing it up, but I don't understand it as well. I based on
Okay.
our conversation, I could paraphrase, but I would probably have a few different clarifying questions for you. But as long as you're okay with me asking you questions, then I'm happy to make the posts around.
Yeah, sure. I can show you. I can give you a quick fly through after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Now the other big topic. We had a lot of big topics in December. The other big topic: Feast of Gods After Action Report. Leon, how's it going? Hello?
I do
Ah,
apologize. I do apologize. I have not had a chance to get everything fully uploaded to the board yet. But we had a total of 133 people. Of that, 120 of them were full weekend participants, 13 day trips. We made like $1,200. Being as we were doing this first time at a new site, there were a little bit of growing pains. Like one of the big things that had happened was Friday night, I believe, the toilets by the camping had clogged and we were unable to reach the on-site attendant.
That was Saturday night.
No, it was Friday.
How about Saturday?
It's Friday or Saturday. Despite me trying to call them something like 33 times.
yeah.
We spent a little over $3,600 for the venue, but that included the weekend rentals and insurance and the alcohol permit provided by the event center. So it'll be a little bit cheaper going forward. There were no major incidences or injuries coming out of the event, which is great. There's a couple of like on-site regular combat injuries. But yeah, that's about it. I should have everything up to you guys as soon as I have time to get around to it, probably Saturday.
No obligation or expectation on this one, but was there any discussion with the site about the hornets?
We have not had a chance to have a conversation, but that is one of the expectations of dealing with a livestock event center.
Yeah.
Is the flies and the hornets are just going to be kind of there. We are working with for the dark shore bid to have countermeasures for that now that we are aware of the problem.
Yeah, I know we had our own plans now that we're getting accustomed to the site and whatnot, and I know that y'all are on top of it. I was curious if there would potentially be anything that the site could do to assist in any way, and that's where I was more curious. But if that conversation has not occurred again, there was no expectation for it to. It would be cool if they could assist just to make life easier for y'all. I was curious. That's all.
And
Leon, could you go ahead and send me that information you talked about tonight in a written report so I can put it in the notes? And then just to confirm, you're going to be doing a more complete report this week, and we'll discuss that at the January meeting. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay.
I'll have everything fully uploaded this weekend.
Yeah, this is one of the fun things about our current documentation. It says the autocrat has like 45 days to get the event bid form.
Yeah, you were just right there.
To the Prime Minister and the BOD. They're the Prime Minister, so they obviously have seen it, but to us within 45 days. So, yeah. So we actually don't technically need to discuss it. They do just need to provide us the document. But yes, I would like to discuss it in January, but that will mostly be up to the new board, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. And I had up the document. So you mentioned the attendance is about 133 people. You had the breakdown. So the gross profits was about $1,200 in profit.
No, that was the net profits was about $1,200.
Yeah. Okay. And then the total expenses, and then okay. Oh, the net profit. Okay, yeah. Gross profit. This should be revenue. Okay. Whatever. And then yeah, you'll have the event breakdown and then any receipts. Okay, cool. And then Athena as our treasurer for the remainder of the month until we get a new board. Obviously, I would like you to look into that and just make sure that there haven't been any gross accounting errors.
Yeah, I'm assuming, Leon, I saw that y'all were using the new, beautiful, large spreadsheet set from Alana and whatnot. Is that something that you guys plan to upload along with the audit form or no?
Yes.
Yay, that'll make my life super easy. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Does that cover everybody's current pending questions for the Feast of Gods after action report? Yay. We have a process for donation from vendors. I kind of forget what this topic was about. Was this the
That was
receipt process?
Frankie asking us to look into the process. I will pull up last month's notes has a more complete description.
As I recall, that was Frankie asking about us getting a process together for soliciting donations for from Trader Joe's for feeds or what have you.
Okay. The process for including receipts and write-offs, yeah, as well as for donations. Yeah, because we have a booklet of receipts for donations that we can provide them as the official 501c3 write-off stuff. And the question was, should we have like another little form or something like that? I think.
Currently, my computer's throwing a fit, so I can't pull up the notes to be more
Yeah,
specific.
I have last month's here. So it says it's a walk-on item. Franco would like autocrats or monarchy to find food suppliers that could donate for feast. BOD needs to figure out the process, including receipts and write-offs, which we already have a receipt, which is, I believe, also the write-off form. I believe the receipt booklet's actually currently with Theos, so we do need to get some from him. Yeah. Okay. I don't have any additional action on that right now. Does anybody else? Okay. Item number 6 now. We have now completed our old business. On to new business. Do we have any new business? Okay, perfect. The one thing I will mention here is kind of a bit of a walk-on / new business thing is technically the way our process works for electing the board of directors is the old board should approve the new board before they come in. So I would like everybody, if possible, to attend the January meeting. Actually, I think we get to set the January meeting of when we think it should happen. So Leon, I believe you were having elections early in January, so you should probably set it for some time a bit later in January. I will also mention there's a handful of things within the bylaws that says like expense report for the year is supposed to be done by the end of within 30 days of the end of our fiscal year. The end of our fiscal year is December 31st, which so that means the new board gets until the end of the fiscal year. Unless Athena wants to start cackling that of, the list of our books and how much money we spent last year and where it went. But yeah. But I kind of like the new treasurer to also, I think it's decently a decent idea for the new treasurer to kind of do that, because then it's also them double checking the old treasurer to make sure they didn't do anything incorrectly. All of this to say, I think we should not have it the first or second week. We should probably aim for like around, say, the 20th, 21st, 22nd, somewhere in there, if that works for people.
I mean, the monarchy and the PM will be the only confirmed guaranteed people. And
we
then
hold the position until the new board is elected. Well, it's 1 year basically. It's a 1-year term, so the term goes up, and we need to vote. We need to officially give our rubber stamp on the new board.
okay, fair enough. I just was curious about the scheduling where we don't know the availability of hypothetical folks, but
Well, I
okay.
do remember how bad it was last year when there became a whole point of confusion and nobody knew who was scheduling the meeting.
Fair enough. Okay, so we'll put at least a tentative, here's the plan, and it can be updated as necessary.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. At least put something down on paper, and then if the new board comes in and it was like, oh no, we definitely can't make that date work, then we'll come back in. So here we go. Here's the January schedule. I recommend somewhere between the 20th and the 20, that week, the 19th through 23rd. And
I'm sorry, did you
22nd?
already do the walk-on items and nobody had any? Is that correct?
yeah, my walk-on item is I would like this board to be able to show up to the next meeting for the first 5 to 10 minutes just to say, yes, we're approving the board, and nobody here is, unable to hold office because of illegal things. And that's it. That's my walk-on item. And so my walk-on item was we should schedule the next meeting.
Okay.
I did kind of wonder about would it be helpful for us to have materials about, hey guys, donate to Westmarch for people who have no idea what Amcard is?
That is actually happening. So that is, where was that? The 501c3 business donation pamphlet.
Fair enough. Okay, then that's in the works. My bad.
Yeah, let me see. I know Milan pulled up he sent me a copy. Let me see if I can pull it up real fast. I'm trying to remember what of the 400 messages I have going on with Milan right now is the appropriate. Of course, I'll open an Edge. Fine. Okay. Here we go. This is what's happening. So here we go. So Milan threw together a little 501c3 template. I can show this. I don't think it's done. I think we need to do a little bit of touch up on it, but overall, it kind of displays, King of Westmarch, building community through Renaissance arts and science sports, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit. Goes into a small blurb about us.
Very cool.
Yep. Our mission grabs a few lovely photos of us, shows kind of our arts and science, gives a quick, we actually have more than 14 active chapters. Number of cities, and then just like a quick little blurb about our impact to the community and then how to contact us. So, well, Milan has been working on this in the background. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're able to make it today to share it with us. And so I think it will remain on stuff we turn over to the new board, along with the other stuff I'm turning over to the new board, like actually updating the board of directors handbook that we were supposed to do all year and got too busy to do.
I think
Unless
that,
one of us wants to do it in the next few weeks.
what I'm confused. What handbook? I'm sorry.
There's a BOD handbook. Let me see if I can pull this up real fast. So if you go to the Westmarch BOD on the AMPed wiki page, so it's wiki.ampguard.com,
Mm-hmm.
you look for Westmarch BOD, there is a current BOD handbook right here, first link. Got it, cool. And this covers, in theory, all the information the board needs to kind of handle this. So corporation name, our boss, like I look at this document a lot. This box office is actually out of date. This is our old physical address, but the EIN is still correct. The name of the corporation is correct. It talks about that like our filing is, we have to do our file. Wait,
Out of date.
this doesn't happen. Yeah. No, this is for the post office, which we don't do that anymore. This is the tax filing.
Rest in peace for your.
Yeah, this is a. Yeah, so this is the post office now, sends it to. Yeah, so as you can tell, this is a little bit updated. Needs a little bit of love. It was one of the things that we were supposed to do last year. We updated like bits and pieces of it, but we never finished it. Then we went to do it this year, but we got distracted with, insurances and trailers and California tax filings and updating our bylaws and all the other things we did this year. And then, it talks about like the various pieces of paperwork we have to file. So like by April 30th, we have to file our statement of information. We actually have to update this. We're supposed to file it every time we change CEO, CFO, or treasurer. Or sorry, CFO, or secretary. Yeah, CEO, CFO, and secretary. And then it talks about like this used to have land audits, right? And there's a use request form for our EIN. This actually still exists. This was a requirement for advertising, which we don't do anymore. A few other things. Talks about relevant sections of the Westmarch Corpora. Most of this is outdated now and truly point to our bylaws, sponsor chapters, things like that. And then here's how you do Robert's Rules of Orders, which as long as I've been on the board, we have never used because they are a pain. But it just talks about like a way to handle a board meeting, and that's it. So it just kind of covers like the major, like make sure you file the taxes, make sure you update the Secretary of State. Here's our post office spot, like our official mailing address, our official EIN, and things like that. It's supposed to be kind of the go-to quick reference guide for the board. Clearly, it's a little bit out of date. Yeah, most of this information is actually now up to date, however, on our wiki page, which is where we do actually have the actual address and the same EIN information, and most of the other relevant documents that were kind of referenced in the Board of Directors Handbook is now just live on our wiki page. So this kind of covers for it to an extent. Okay.
So next meeting.
So next meeting. Anybody have a particular preference?
I do like the 22nd as an option.
Okay, the 22nd. Does anybody have a disagreement on the 22nd? I think we just need a majority board to be able to vote in the new people.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, cool. Let's go 22nd at say 6:30.
Sure.
See you all there for
Sounds
like
good.
10 minutes, and then if you're not running again, you can leave and go on your merry day.
See y'all there for 10 to 90 minutes, depending.
And as always, it's been a pleasure working with all of you. Feel free to run again. It's always helpful. Hopefully it was a valuable learning experience. And you got everything out of it that you wanted to, hoped, dreamed, and enjoyed. Do we have anything else to discuss in this meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, let me go find the stop button.